Hello and welcome to Six Part. Today I'm gonna continue the story What If Deku Had a Goddess Harem Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Izuku was meeting with a king today. No pressure, right? As he straightened his tie, he thought to himself. Yes, you read correctly. For this, I made a suit. At the moment, Izuku was dressed in a three-piece green suit, a red tie, and a black undershirt. With this one, he went all out. It would easily fetch several 100,000 yen back in Japan. Izuku looked like a nerd shamed into a high-class outfit overall. He even managed to recreate some of the colognes from his world, though he began to regret that last one after realizing that perfume wasn't really a thing in this world. Oh well, I already stand out as is, might as well go full throttle. Totally out of place. Aris said, "You look fine for the last time, Izuku-kun. Hell, that outfit is probably worth more than most nobles' whole wardrobes with how well you made it." Izuku's nervous muttering was interrupted by Aris' voice. She was already wearing her godly robes, so she didn't bother changing. Divine. Nothing, including Aqua, could match that. Izuku made Kazuma a traditional black obi and a green kimono with bamboo patterns. His goal was to share a little bit of Japanese culture with the world. Izuku gladly did it, but to be honest, he did it primarily to deflect some of the attention from himself. Darkness was dressed in the same formal attire she usually wore after the incident proceeding. Megaman and Yun Yun chose a red and black combination with flame patterns because they liked the idea of wearing kimonos. To be honest, they looked cute. Senna was dressed in her simple uniform. Somewhere, she may have an infinite number of copies. Although Wiz regrettably declined to accompany them, Kazuma made amends by recommending her store. She wished the party luck and appeared ecstatic about that. Senna questioned, "Are you all ready?" After the group had completed gathering the items they would be bringing. Izuku had a second copy of the complete set underneath the suit. He also brought his notebooks and a few writing instruments in case they asked him to provide an exhibition or something. "Yes," Izuku replied with a shallow bow, "thanks again for being our guide, Senna-san. It's nice to have someone you know for these kinds of things." Senna nodded and smiled before opening a scroll she was carrying. Mass teleportation made it possible for several people to travel great distances within a 3-meter radius. "It's time for me to update my adventure card. I was only level 10 the last time I checked. Since then, I have vanquished an enemy of the natural disaster class and a demon general." Izuku needed to think for a while, and perhaps Megaman could help him make a decision. Ignore it. They had already arrived when Izuku opened his eyes after blinking once. In the chamber of the throne. Right there, with the king seated. No I. King Belzerg got up from his chair and spoke to them while Izuku's brain was rebooting. Man, this guy was intimidating. So these are the adventurers that lead the charge against the demon general Beldia. And this young man in the stylish green clothing, he destroyed the mobile fortress. Reboot complete. He also exuded a powerful aura. Deku, get your act together. This cannot be messed up. Yes sir. Our party dealt with Beldia along with the help of the other guild members. We were also the ones to fight the destroyer. I just happened to finish it off is all. Izuku replied sheepishly to the final sentence. Although it may have been his idea, Aqua, Megaman, and Wiz were the ones who made it happen. A modest one Senna told me about that, but to think that you would downplay such an important achievement. Frankly, it's a breath of fresh air compared to the usual braggart nobles and hero candidates that enter my throne room. He replied with a slight smirk. But you're also a brave one. Most would be bowing at my presence, even those friends of yours are shaking at the knees, yet you appear unfazed. Why is that? At that, Izuku's eyes grew wide, and he turned to face his companions. Yes, they were trembling a little. Aqua and Aris were the only ones who seemed unfazed. Darkness handled it a little better, even though Megaman and Yun Yun were pretending to be staring at the destroyer once more. She was likely at least somewhat accustomed to his presence because she was a noble. Kazuma's clenched jaw also revealed a surprising level of calmness, albeit a hint of nervousness. Izuku gave an honest response, saying, "I noticed your aura too, sir. It's just, I felt stronger. All Might's presence was difficult to overcome." In terms of raw aura, Stain was not far behind either. The king sat down again after his eyes widened slightly. The king asked inquisitively, "Is that so? Might I ask who else would have a presence similar to mine?" He rarely heard of anyone who could be more powerful than him. That made Izuku's face a little happier. Izuku smiled in remembrance of my master and remarked, "My former teacher, All Might. He was the strongest man I've ever met. But his conviction and ideals were even stronger than his fists." His voice was full of respect. King Belzerg spoke with obvious pride in his own voice, saying, "All Might. That sounds more like a title than a name. But if you say that he is stronger than me, then that title might be accurate. Not many can catch up to Belzerg royalty after all. Is the entire family this abnormally powerful? They would have access to the best resources this world has to offer, so I suppose it makes sense. Additionally, since eating good food can earn experience points, he was most likely at a higher level than Izuku." From behind the group, a young, high-pitched voice said, I highly doubt that." Everyone turned to look at the cute little girl, who was most likely a little younger than Megumin. She wore a sword strapped to her side, and she had blue eyes and blonde hair. And a sword that is obviously magical. Izuku could feel the magic emanating from it even when it was sheathed. It made him think of Graham, but more sophisticated? The princess must be there. As Iris approached them, Izuku thought, and judging from that aura, she's also pretty strong. To the horror of Izuku, Kazuma went to defend his brother. "Oh yeah? And who are you, little girl? What do you know about Izuku ni?" asked Kazuma. With a sneer, the girl dismissed him. At least that sub-plan was a huge success. And why should I listen to a man in a dress? In an attempt to defend his fashion sense, Kazuma pointed to Megumin and Yun to demonstrate her point. "It's a kimono. The formal wear of my homeland," Kazuma said. Then she approached Izuku and began prodding his face. Izuku said courteously, "Excuse me. Why are you poking me, princess?" She looked sheepish as her father coughed a little into his hands. She was aware of her rude behavior, but she was a little too arrogant to acknowledge it. Half in wonder and half in shock at Izuku's talent, she said, "I was checking out what made you so special. Honestly, I'm not impressed. What level are you anyway?" She was taken aback, though, when Izuku, rather than boasting as usual, had no idea. King Belzerg nodded and then clapped his hands, saying, "I honestly don't know. The last time I checked was a few months ago." A group of servants came into the room with a crystal that was easily 3 times as large as the one used at the guild halls. "Those runes, too. Right here was some high-level stuff." "Go ahead, young man, I'm rather curious about it myself. The rest of your party should do so as well. Consider it a token of our gratitude for your services to the kingdom. If it helps, my darling Iris here is level 45, I myself am level 78. Wow, she's higher level than Mitsurugi. The king, too, he's bigger than anyone I've ever met." Kazuma puts his hand on the orb first, grinning. The orb burst into a dazzling green light, and a dark silver card was formed. The following was what the card said. Sato Kazuma, Adventurer, class level, 39. Power, 65. Vitality, 80. 124 is the intelligence score. Knowledge, 98. 180 degrees of dexterity. Good fortune, 810. Kazuma grinned at the compliment, saying, "Not bad, your brother is on the same level as the highest-ranked Imperial Knights. Not many can achieve that level of power, especially with such a weak starting class. It must have felt wonderful for him to have his ego stroked by someone of such importance." Despite appearing somewhat taken aback by the high level, Iris ultimately rejected it. A great adventurer couldn't be that impressive if their level was lower than that of a 13-year-old, right? Iris went next. Her card was a different shade of silver, shinier than Kazuma's, and her light was a brighter silver than Kazuma's. Her statistics are as follows. Nani, Arisvule Midoriya, category, Thief. 42nd level power. 80 vitality, 70. 80 is the intelligence score. Knowledge, 60. 150 dexterity, fortune. Mistake. King Belzerg was genuinely taken aback by that one. Another strong level, and a thief this time, interesting. But that luck, you managed to break the system. Only those blessed by the divine could pull that off. The other reincarnates who selected a stat boost as a gift were the only ones who came close. Of course, he was unaware of this. Iris gazed curiously at the silver-haired beauty once more. The blush of embarrassment was a sign that she must have apologized to her inwardly. Nevertheless, neither of the two outperformed Iris in terms of level, so she wasn't entirely convinced about this party. Izuku, however, paid more attention to the card's opening. Iris-chan. Why is my last name on there? This goddess seems to be playing with his emotions and taunting him constantly. Answering, she giggled into her sleeve. Izuku was a little alarmed when King Belzerg started laughing and said, What do you mean, Izuku-kun? I am yours after all. He waved them away, indicating that it was time for the next person to leave. Seeing an opportunity to brag, Megumin hurried in immediately. Her card was the same shade of crimson as her light. The actual card said, Megumin Archwizard class level, 60. 30 is the strength. Vitality, 4300 IQ. Knowledge, 60 dexterity, 40 fortuity, 40. The king's compliment caused Iris to lose her composure and blush in embarrassment once more. Oh my, that certainly blows most people out of the water. The level alone is in the same league as my son. Her intelligence is also rather high, and if our information is correct, you also know how to cast the explosion spell with great proficiency. Quite impressive. Next was Yun Yun, whose card was a darker shade of red but otherwise looked very similar to Megumin's. Unfortunately, because she didn't really contribute much to the destroyer fight or the battle against Verdia, her level and statistics were much lower. Yun Yun Archwizard class level 30. 30 is the strength. Vitality, 4270 points of intelligence. Knowledge, 90 dexterity, 55 good fortune, 30. Although Yun Yun still appeared somewhat upset about being the weakest statistically, she recovered swiftly after the king said politely, "This one is a bit more average." Still, an Archwizard of the 30th level is something to be proud of. These stats are also typical of a high-class adventurer. Izuku smiled to himself, thinking, I guess not much can hold her down. Aqua came next. She approached the orb with assurance, and this time it flashed blue. They made a sapphire card that said, Water class, Archpriest level, 50. Strength, 92 vitality, 10 points for intelligence. Knowledge, 54 dexterity score, 74 good fortune, 1. Aqua stole a glance at Izuku, which fortunately escaped the other players' notice. A healer with a level of 50. How? Even our greatest healers aren't near that. You would have to provide near life or storing healing on a daily basis to even come close, Aqua said. The green mage simply said, my powers are volatile, okay? With a blank expression. Transmute blew up in my face more often than not at first, and that's not my fault. Izuku defended himself in his mind, arguing that, in contrast to quirk-based healing, magical healing had no drawbacks. Darkness came in second. This time, a gold card was produced as the orb flashed yellow. The card said, Ford Lalatina Dustiness Crusader class. Level, 38 power, 200 vitality, 50 points for intelligence knowledge, 30 dexterity, good fortune, 300. Another fairly high level, as expected from a Dustiness Ford. Her vitality is off the charts. Literally, that's quite impressive, and that luck stat is nothing to scoff at either. This party is certainly worthy of its reputation, but now it's time for the leader to step to the plate. The monarch said as he turned to Izuku. With a gulp, Izuku activated One for All at 80%, which was his current full set maximum. He would begin to sustain fractures or even break bones at any higher altitude. Before a dazzling light burst, he laid his arm over the orb. A loud boom followed immediately by the sound of glass breaking. A pure, pristine adventurer's card was created before the orb exploded. Izuku began to say, I'm so sorry, sir, I don't know why that, but the king laughed him away. The king waved off the destroyed property as if it were nothing, saying, don't worry young man, while this is certainly a first, that orb wasn't that valuable. It was only worth about $1 billion a risk give or take, so it's fine. For example, which, given that he was a king, was fair enough. Slap. Yaoyorozu-san is back, for real. And I can't complain because of his rugged aura rather than his vivacious attitude. At last, Izuku picked up the card and read it, his voice a little confused. Midoriya Izuku Archwizard class level, 69. Strength. Vitality, 350 points for intelligence. Knowledge, 40 dexterity. Mistake, good fortune, 850. He concluded his evaluation with a hearty clap, and to Izuku's surprise, Iris began clapping as well. Well, this certainly explains why it reacted so violently. All of your stats barring wisdom are at the elite level, and all of the physical ones are off the charts. Your dexterity is even unquantifiable, and that level, at your age I wasn't even halfway there. You certainly are something special young man. This adventurous group left her utterly impressed. Izuku, who was blushing from all the attention, thought, that's nice, maybe now she'll be a bit nicer to us. The party straightened their backs, and the king reverted to his serious demeanor. Now that pleasantries are out of the way, I would like to begin discussions on your reward for both eliminating the destroyer, and for uncovering such a treacherous noble that was hidden under my nose for so long. Now that the former Lord Alderp has been arrested and stripped of his titles, a new lord needs to take over the duty of governing Axel. Normally this honor would go to House Dustiness, but seeing as it was a young, up-and-coming noble and the hero who uncovered his plot, it seems only fair that you should be given a chance at the title as well. He made a somewhat pompous announcement at the conclusion. Izuku pondered. Izuku exclaimed, as his body and mind combined to demonstrate how erratic his life had become since entering this world. Why do you act so surprised? Think of it as a spoil of war. You took down a corrupt noble, and now you can take their place by rights of conquest. If you were just a regular adventurer I could understand your reluctance, but you're already a noble. King Belzerg was curious. The majority of people would be thrilled to have that kind of power. Izuku rubbed the back of his head at the awkward silence that followed and said, "To be completely honest with you, I became a noble by complete accident." Nani? The king appeared truly surprised for the first time since arriving here. His eyes widened and his jaw opened visibly. By the end of Izuku's explanation of how he became a noble, the king and his daughter were both struggling to contain their laughter, with the younger one failing miserably. It was even worse to see Princess Iris laughing at me. She had the Oju-sama laugh and all. Ha ha ha. Oh, gods above, that was a good one. I have half a mind to drop everything and make you my personal jester with stories like that. I will never be able to move on from Iris. Well, since you explained it so well, I must agree you are too inexperienced for such a responsibility. For that reason, I shall delegate power to the rest of your party. Lady Dustiness Forge shall become the acting lord of Axel, as is her birthright. However, she too is inexperienced. He ruffles his chin as he speaks once more. Tell me, does anyone in your party have experience in business, diplomacy, or even basic things such as mathematics and writing? He was asking them. Izuku gave Kazuma a shove and mouthed the word, shop. It's not surprising when you see that the shop was mostly losing money. Yes. I, Sato Kazuma, and a fellow adventurer who was unable to attend today, Wiz, own a magic shop in Axel. Wiz is the real owner, but her business sense is terrible, so I help out when I can. And just with Aqua's assistance, their marketing generated an enormous amount of new business. Kazuma appeared ecstatic and consistently stated that he desired a comfortable position in high society. Impressive. Then you, Sato Kazuma, shall be the new treasurer for the city of Axel. You shall work directly under Lady Dustiness Ford and deal with any financial issues that may arise. He did, at least, after realizing how exhausting hero work actually was. The next to speak was Iris. The king grinned and gave the party a huge shock by saying, Aqua-chan and I can take care of the city's religious needs. We are both fairly high-ranking members of our respective cults. No one dared to speak. Oh, I'm sure you are, Iris-sama, Aqua-sama. If you're wondering how I found out, Izuku-san here reverts to calling you Iris when he gets lost in the moment. Shit, that Hagoromo was suspiciously shiny. And the name Aqua, along with the blue hair, blue eyes, and obvious divine artifact was a dead giveaway. Izuku was shocked that they had maintained the secret for so long after realizing this. Besides, you two aren't the first, nor the last goddesses to visit our world. I have it under good authority that the goddess Walbach has also descended. For what reason? I don't know yet. Logging this for another time. Noting any potential future divine intervention was always crucial. Darkness nodded. That seemed reasonable. She would eventually have to take over her father's responsibilities, which would help her practice. Diplomatic relations should be handled by a member of nobility with a good deal of experience. Therefore Lady Dustiness will take over that side of things, although seeing as it's the town of beginnings for most, I doubt any heavy-duty negotiations will take place there, so it will give you time to adjust. The green hero was put on the spot when he said jokingly, as for Izuku-san, please give me a list of talents that you feel may be relevant for a position in government, don't leave anything out. Think of this as a surprise interview. With a hint of panic, Izuku thought, great, I do best under pressure or not, and then he barely composed himself. Well, I know how to read and write, pretty basic but important. I can do high-level mathematics easily enough. I have experience dealing with money since Kazuma-kun and I usually divvy up the rewards from quests as well as plan large group purchases. Like the mansion. Chuckle. Sigh, never living it down. Obviously I'm proficient in combat, and Kazuma-kun can attest to my teaching skills, so I could train up the local militia if the situation called for it. I can also transform and manipulate any substance into any other substance by touching it. This process also works in reverse, so I can convert physical matter into pure mana through touch. That last ability may have been too much. Stunned quiet. Oh. Okay, if I didn't know you better I could have sworn that you were bragging halfway through. That's quite the list of skills. I got it. You Izuku Midoriya shall be the chief advisor to the other members of Lady Dustiness' staff. When the time comes I shall leave the city in your hands, but for now, use this job as a way to gain experience until you're ready. Our party suddenly took control of Axel City. I'm not sure if my mother would be pleased or sad about this at this point. As they left the throne room, Izuku thought, unconscious. Let's stick with unconscious. The entire group exhaled deeply in relief before going completely crazy and turning to Izuku for clarification. I need a vacation, Izuku thought, just seconds after landing his first job. Kazuma shook my shoulders and said, Izuku ni, what are we gonna do? I talked a big game but I never expected this to happen. I can only really help him by giving him advice because he put himself in this mess. With a show of hands, the entire group decided to at least give it their all. Listen, everyone, I know that we've been given some great responsibilities, but I believe that we can pull through. Each of you has amazing talent that can be used to help Axel flourish, and I'll be there along with you all. I promise that no matter what I'll never abandon this team. Who's with me? Yun Yun and Megaman were fortunate. All they needed to do was assist me in the event that I chose to instruct the city's militia in magic. Well, Izuku neglected to mention another complication. Izuku-kun, are we ready to leave? The new royal party member of the party said. They didn't understand the black magic that made Iris decide it would be best to join us. Helping out the promising new noble get used to his job, is what she called it, and King Belzerd purchased it as if it were a sale. She is extremely needy, which is the worst part. To Izuku, in particular, for whatever reason. Izuku could only hope that her father wouldn't kill him too brutally for this. But for some reason, he seemed pleased to let her accompany them. Already accustomed to the sensation of being unaware of crucial information pertaining to himself, Izuku thought to himself, I feel like I'm missing something here. As Izuku reached for their reward chest, Senna said, Izuku-san, our mass teleportation scroll has arrived. Do you have everything? For obvious reasons, he was left to bear the weight of it. Nothing to do with the whole, leader carries the burden, shtick. Because it was so full of platinum coins, he was the only person with the strength to lift the damn thing. Yes, our party received 3 billion Aris in reward money with a full chest of those suckers, each of whom was worth 100,000 Aris. Corrupt nobles are dangerous, and corrupt nobles with devils in their pockets are even more dangerous. What about corrupt nobles who went unnoticed for decades? Alderp was apparently worth a good deal of money. Horrible. The ridiculous amount was the result of that plus a nice 3 billion reward for bringing down the destroyer. Who would have guessed that the bounty for a superweapon capable of destroying entire cities would be so high? After taking down one of those, the pros in my world would simply receive free food for a week. I suppose there are benefits to living in this world. I chose to pay for the magical orb that we broke because it would only be right, even though the total would have been $4 billion. Upon reflection, Uraraka-san would have cherished this place. It's not too hard to find money. Izuku felt a breath on his ear as Aris whispered to him, the food is varied and reasonably priced, and there is no light pollution either, so the stars are out in full force. Izuku jumped out of his skin when they teleported, asking, are you thinking of other girls when you have me right here? His current use of OFA to lift the platinum chest sent him all the way up, hitting his head on the guildhall ceiling. Aitai, Izuku said in agony, switching back to Japanese, and Iris turned to look at him. You know the royal language? Okay? Is it a royal language? Izuku asked, the what now? Even though he had a good idea of what was going on. Iris gives him a suspicious look. The royal language, known only to my family. It was given through us by a legendary hero that joined the family centuries ago. Nobody else should know how to speak it, she said with a Japanese accent. Izuku's eyes grew wide as he reciprocated, but in flawless native speaker Japanese. As he could have predicted, Izuku clarified, why yes, this language is actually my native one. Kazuma-kun, Aris-chan, and Aqua-chan can speak it too. Given the length of the conflict and the strength of the royals and their weapons, it was not surprising that they gained additional reincarnations over the centuries. Iris's eyes got even bigger. So the royal family was unaware of the language's actual origin? Native. A goddess knowing the language I could understand, but 2 native speakers. Oh well, they might as well let Iris know if she would be attending the party. She squealed with delight at the prospect of learning the secrets behind one of her family's oldest customs. I can explain that later. Most of my party already knows about the circumstances, so it would only be fair if we told you too. She's in. A timid voice said, Izuku-sama, is she who I think she is? It came from our left. At that, Izuku's stomach fell. Izuku turned and saw the stunned expressions on the faces of the other guild members. Oh, I just brought the royal princess into a rookie town's guild hall without any warning. Crap. Then, one by one, they began bowing to Iris. That's enough now. While I'm here there will be no need for such formalities. From this day forward I am just another member of Izuku-kun's party. I decided to join in order to help him with his new duties. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. She replied with a bow. The explorers let out a shout and cheered. Izuku-sama strikes again. And, our princess is so modest. The aforementioned mage chose to ignore the latter for his own mental health. Luna inadvertently made Izuku's predicament worse by asking, what new duties Iris-sama? However, some would argue that it was preferable to tear off the bandage all at once. Iris continued by explaining each of their roles, saying, my father decided to reward his party for the arrest of the corrupt former lord of this town. It goes without saying that the others now regarded Kazuma with a little more suspicion. He's the new tax collector, then. Izuku expressed his internal regret for Kazuma's unavoidable notoriety. As Izuku and his group made their way to the exit, they were gracious enough to give them a wide berth at the very least. While I would love to catch up and chat with all of you, we still have business with Wiz-chan who wasn't able to join us. Once we deliver her share of the reward we'll come back for dinner. The local friendly Lich greeted the group warmly when they arrived at the store. She was understandably taken aback by Iris's presence, but she recovered swiftly enough. A princess isn't all that weird, I suppose, after encountering several otherworldly creatures, including 2 goddesses. Izuku gave her a bag full of gold and platinum coins and said, anyway, here's your share of the reward Wiz-chan. Izuku smiled and said, 625 million Aris in total, don't spend it all in one place. Wiz was shocked, but Izuku didn't notice it until she erupted in a bewildered panic. The entire party grinned at her when she said, but I barely did anything, why am I getting such a large share? Wiz was occasionally just too modest. In all honesty, I should be giving you even more than this. Her eyes widened and she yelled, no, before Izuku could say anything more. Don't sell yourself short, Wiz-chan. You were the one who teleported the Coronatide away, which, as luck would have it, got us a good chunk of our reward money. Plus you saved my life after I broke every bone in my body. This is already too much. You and Kazuma-kun, and Aqua-sama, and Aris-sama too. You've all helped me so much. For once in my long life, I finally found success with my shop and it's all because of you guys. I owe you more than I could possibly repay you. The group was taken aback. Specifically, Izuku. I had no idea she felt this way. God, no, she's crying. Izuku hugged her tightly, and the others did the same. Because she didn't know the shopkeeper well and didn't want to spoil the moment, Iris chose to remain in the back. After a heartfelt group hug, Wiz began to relax. A chorus of agreement echoes from the others, including Aris and Aqua, who overcame their innate animosity toward the undead to embrace Wiz as one of their own. I think we all agree when I say this, but you are part of this party, whether you adventure with us or not. With complete assurance in his voice, Kazuma exclaimed, if you ever need help, just ask, because this party, it's become my new family, and I take care of my own. Yun started to cry a little, but she was able to control herself for the time being. She accepted Izuku's invitation with a broad smile. Would you like to join us for dinner with San? We should talk about business, considering that our favorite shop just got some public investors. They said. After that, the entire group made their way back to the guild hall. All things considered, today was a good day. With luck, they would all be able to live up to the king's standards. Kazuma read a number of documents, each of which was magical in its own way, and then he said gravely, Izuku-ni, we have a very serious problem. They were the profit and tax sheets for the city. The former Lord Alderp imposed a number of taxes on the former. Izuku quickly skimmed it and saw the problem. Completely and utterly corrupt. There was no other way to put it. The majority of these tax laws were so intricate that it required multiple readings before one could even begin to comprehend them. Everyone was unaware that they were being drained dry by that fat tub of lard. Unfortunately, they were never able to capture that one. I bet that demon he employed was responsible for writing most of these. That was the selling point of the other sheet. I see what you mean. We can't let things keep going like this. Just 20% of the taxes paid by the public were used to fund public services. The remaining funds were used to enrich the governor. Fortunately for them, altering these was not too difficult. Yeah. And I thought Japan's taxes were utter crap. This just blows everything out of the water. No wonder so many adventurers were living in the damn stables every night. To remove the ink, they simply needed to use a magical cleaning solution. After that, they either wrote new taxes or made changes as needed. That was the only question now. What was removed and what remained? We should get rid of most of the minor taxes first. We can rewrite them later as the need arises. As for the ridiculous profits that were earned every year, offering a full refund would be logistically impossible at this point. Instead, we should use it for what it was meant for. Funding. With Kazuma on board, the two began to resolve the issues. Izuku began with the bare necessities because a society marched on its stomach and we need to provide a safe, self-sufficient, and year-round source of food right away. This city could use an agricultural overhaul right about now. We could make simple educational pamphlets and send them out to local farmers for free. That should help boost the economy in general and fill in any gaps that our tax cuts might leave. During his tenure, no one went hungry. And some better paychecks for the local town guard should also help. Normally rookie adventurers are hired to fill in for various low-paying jobs to make ends meet. But if we actually give them livable wages, along with the tax cuts, then more people should show up. Unemployment goes down. Production and security skyrocket. Kazuma continued, focusing more on the commercial aspect of the situation. This was his method of making amends for the fact that he had lived in extreme poverty for a significant amount of his early adventuring years. Despite all of his greed, he had a good heart. They should speak with Darkness about putting these into effect immediately because, after all, her stamp was now law. Those were all excellent points. As far as Izuku could tell, the place was always packed. We should meet with Luna-chan. Most of this city's labor force goes there to find employment, adventurer or otherwise. Darkness-chan should be there too. Poor Luna appeared to be overworked all the time as well. Perhaps this would ease her workload. After 20 minutes. Guild Hall. Luna bowed and said, Izuku-kun, Kazuma-kun, welcome, to the two. She pointed to the rear of the dining area and said, how may I help you two today? If you're looking for Darkness-chan, she's over there. Thank you, Luna-chan, we're looking for her. And as a heads up, we've been looking into the city's finances. Long story short, the former noble in charge of this place horribly mismanaged them. You can expect things to get better before they get worse. Izuku broke the news to her. She shook her head, initially looking surprised. With that boost in confidence, the two green adventurers went to Darkness, who was going through her own documents. If anyone can do it, it's your party, Izuku-kun. I trust you all much more than that old traitor anyway. Good luck. This statement said. Primarily formed alliances and treaties to ensure she didn't unintentionally break any of them. Izuku exclaimed, good morning Darkness-chan, which made Darkness jump a little. Good morning Izuku-kun, Kazuma-kun, she said, observing the papers we were carrying. Is there something you need? The two asked, nodding as they showed her the papers and gave their explanation. As she considered their ideas, a serious expression changed on her face. They worked on the details for a few more hours before coming up with a half-decent plan. I'll agree to it. If what you propose on doing will help this city prosper, then, of course, I will. I just need one of you to write down the specifics on paper. From there I'll see what I can do. Finding a manager is now the only thing left to do. Yun did mention that she would eventually lead the Crimson Demon clan. She might benefit from this practice. Despite the fact that her interpersonal skills are lacking. Luna ought to be able to assist with that. Having made up his mind, Izuku approached Luna to present his idea. Although Darkness may have approved of the changes, the terms also needed to be approved by the Adventurers Guild and Luna in a proxy capacity. After all, this was going to be a huge shift, and the new government needed all the help they could get. She appeared thrilled after carefully going over their plans. Izuku-kun, this is incredible. With these reforms, our monthly income could easily quadruple, and with all of the extra work being handled without supervision, I can finally. She turned her head slowly and looked Izuku in the eyes after a moment of shock. Before he knew it, Luna had thrown herself on Izuku and planted a kiss on his lips. I can finally take days off every week. Izuku let go and started laughing uncontrollably, but he was so stunned that he didn't even notice. Wow, didn't expect that one. Good work though Izuku-ni, that's another conquest under your belt. Kazuma laughed at him. But Izuku didn't respond because he was still processing. Izuku heard Aris say, "Oh, for goodness sake," then he felt himself being raised. "Eeh! Aris-chan, why?" Izuku cried in alarm at the abrupt elevation shift. "Senna-san asked for you but you didn't respond when I spoke up, so now we're doing this." Was that Senna? Was there anything he could do for her? "Hold on, let's get started." She halted and set him down, saying, "Aris-chan, please let me down, I can walk now." "Sorry about that, Izuku-kun. Also please watch what you call me. Although at this point I don't think my identity really matters," she acknowledged. They weren't a problem because the town's residents essentially worshiped their party as heroes and the higher-ups already knew who she was. Aqua also doubted that anyone would believe them in the first place because she practically declared her divinity every day. Izuku said, Oh, right, sorry about that." As they continued to make their way to the exit, he saw Senna waiting for them. Senna had a worried expression on her face, so Izuku quickened his pace. She brightened at his voice and said to the two, "Good morning, Senna-san. Is something wrong? You look worried." Senna described how a peculiar kind of monster had started to infest a location known as Keel's Dungeon earlier that day. "Ah, hello Izuku-kun, I would like for your party to take a special request from the kingdom, you see," she said. They appeared to be tiny chibi monsters that resembled humanoids and would attach themselves to humans before blowing up when they made contact. Izuku casually remarked, "Oh, okay. I'll go get Darkness-chan, Aqua-chan, and Kazuma-kun then." He would also bring Yun, but she was assisting Wiz for the day. "A magical test dummy, perhaps? She joined us as we assembled our team, looking relieved. If it's just a large group of weak enemies then we should be able to handle it ourselves." It was already nightfall when they arrived at Keel's Dungeon, which was several hours away. Senna-chan was accurate. These creatures are peculiar and alike. They might be summonses. Aris gasped when she saw the small suicide bombers, suggesting that she knew more than I did. They were up against a devil, so it's a good thing they had Aqua with them. That mask, it's demonic, the mask of Hell's Duke veneer. But why is such a high-level devil in a place like this? Keel's Dungeon is reasonably easy to navigate, especially with the map they were given, according to the mission briefing the party received. Izuku couldn't help but feel disappointed as they entered the dungeon because the tiny dolls were so frail. He was fairly certain that even Kazuma could withstand a direct hit from them with only minor injuries, and even their explosions couldn't even scratch Darkness or himself. Is this what people refer to as being overleveled? As they got closer to their objective, Izuku pondered. A masked man was standing cross-legged in the middle of a dead-end hallway, experimenting with some sort of clay. Wearing a fancy suit and the same mask as the creatures, he essentially played the part of the charming gentleman demon. "This has to be Veneer." "Correct," he exclaimed abruptly, shocking them. "He has the ability to read minds, probably within a certain range. I am Veneer-san, the Duke of Hell, said to be stronger than the Demon King himself. Now, why have you humans come so far to meet me?" "He can only read surface thoughts, so that was incorrect." "Correct again. You are a smart one. Since you know my name I can assume that you knew that I was a demon general, right? That's good to know. I see that I've revealed a card from my hand. Clever. Well, if you truly did not know, then let me make this clear. I may be a demon general, but I wish you humans no harm. I merely keep the barrier over his castle powered. A general in name alone, if you will." That was all well and good, but his behavior betrays that. If any of the adventurers approached those dolls, they could be dangerous. Furthermore, because it was a beginner's dungeon, deaths were even more likely. "Oh, my apologies. I had used these dolls to make sure that this dungeon was empty. It seems that my work has been completed. I truly wished no harm upon the humans, they are my food source after all." When he said this, Izuku turned on One for All. He threatened, hoping that this was a succubus situation, saying, "Explain." Very carefully, Veneer halts and clears his throat, saying, "That came out wrong." In all honesty, since he had no reason to lie, he explained, "In fact, you see, devils like myself feed off of the negative emotions of mortals. Therefore, murdering our food source would be counterproductive. Besides, my tastes are a bit more specific. I prefer the taste of shame above all else." Actually, that wasn't all that horrible. To be honest, he would have an all-you-can-eat buffet every day if he lived in a big city. Particularly when the succubi are present. But why, of all things, was he cleaning out a dungeon? He started talking incoherently about his grand scheme, saying, "Ah, that's an interesting story, you see." As Izuku listened to the villain's insane speech, he thought, It feels like I'm home again. In essence, the Demon King requested that he look into Verdia's fate. Unexpectedly, he brought up Wiz in his tirade and not directly, of course, but few people could be described as a knuckle-headed shopkeeper who lost more money the harder she tried. Izuku veered off topic as Veneer went on to describe his complex suicide plan, which he had devised after his arrival. Which essentially came down to construct a sizable, hardly livable, but not fatal, dungeon. Allow a few skilled explorers to enter the dungeon and make their way to the last room, barely surviving as they are constantly taunted by tricks. Show himself, fight the adventurers to the death, probably killing himself because most people couldn't compete with a demon general, and then troll them one last time while holding a big chest behind him that only had the words, "You lose," written on it. All things considered, it was the most malevolent thing I have ever heard. With absolutely no shame, Kazuma exclaimed, "Why, you marvelously evil bastard. If you weren't our enemy I would be praising you." Since returning from the capital, his confidence has increased significantly. Eris appeared resigned with her friend's demeanor, while Darkness appeared scandalized by his remark. "Eris? Oh my, I hadn't noticed at first, she hides it well, but your mind is an open book, young hero. I must say I'm surprised to see a goddess walking among us. Make that too. Those blue eyes, that blue hair and that similar aura, you must be Aqua. Oh my." Izuku broke down in tears at this. At least Veneer was forthright. Finally, some regret, a hint of shame and self-loathing. It tastes delicious coming from such a pure soul. Izuku inquired curiously, "If I may ask, why do you want to kill yourself? Why would an immortal wish to put an end to everything?" "Oh, that's a bit of a misnomer, I admit. You see, my physical body resides in hell. If my current body were to die, I would simply be reborn with a new one. I simply wish to use this first life to cause as much suffering and shame as possible." Veneer replied with no shame in his voice. Too truthful. Kazuma spoke up with a sudden vigor before Izuku could launch himself at their demonic host. "Well, if he wants to die in an epic battle anyway, might as well give him his wish. Izuku was just going to let this happen. If it's shameful suffering that you want, then I have the perfect job for you." Kazuma had never made such a mess before. "Now follow me on this one. Would you like to become a bureaucrat?" The question was so absurd that silence fell. "Kazuma, you dumb genius." Veneer burst out laughing. Out of control. His fits of laughter even caused him to start bending his body in strange ways, but he suddenly stopped and looked straight at Kazuma. "I'm listening." That was simple enough. Kazuma continued by explaining that since we were the new city's rulers, we needed someone who could handle the paperwork associated with running the government while adhering strictly to the law. You wish to give me a position where I can legally cause people suffering through their own mistakes? How perfect. I accept. Is this individual mentally ill? His tone keeps shifting at random times. Is this his shtick, or what? Izuku needed a vacation. Oh, that's just how I like to add flair to my conversations. Don't mind me. Additionally, he could likely afford to take a break with their newest hire. Perhaps Kazuma's suggestion was a good one after all. Konosuba. Wiz's store. Ironically, Axel's new governor now had a demon working for him. Additionally, 2 demon generals were out of commission in the enemy army itself. It was clear that Beldia had melted him into oblivion. Since accepting our offer of employment, Veneer has made the decision to cease powering the Demon King's barrier, which provided the government with sufficient proof to validate the kill of 500 million more Riss for that one. But it might have been 3 generals. After hearing what her friends had to say, Wiz exclaimed, "You managed to convince Veneer-san to join you," in utter shock. Kazuma gave a thumbs up and said, "Yup. Who knew all you had to do to defeat a demon general was to talk him down? It wasn't even that hard to get him there. To get past the guards, they simply had to steal his mask, which served as a soul phylactery." Amazing. You guys are truly amazing. Now there are only 5 demon generals left. Not counting myself, of course. Izuku had informed her that they had discovered who she was when they first brought Veneer to her shop. She was initially afraid, but the group was able to reassure her by telling her that they would listen to her since she hadn't hurt them in any way. She clarified that she was merely a general in name, just like Veneer. She was free to live her life, but she had to maintain the barrier over his castle. Okay then. Keep that up. If you stop now it would only look suspicious anyway. With Aqua-chan in our party along with her high level we should be able to destroy the barrier soon anyway. Izuku made the decision. Wiz appeared relieved and content that she could keep living the life she so deeply loved. Unfortunately, they didn't receive much information. Izuku asked, since we're on that topic, would you mind telling us anything you two might know about the other generals? Any information might help us tremendously. At best, the relationships among the generals were shaky. Wiz, in particular, was only aware of Belita, Vanir, and the general's daughter of the Demon King. However, Vanir was a little more educational. There are two others that I am aware of. The first is a poison slime by the name of Hans. He is particularly dangerous due to his physiology. As for his appearance, he is rather average. Brown hair, brown eyes, and he usually wears a gold-beaded necklace with a large ruby in the center. He also prefers sleeveless shirts and has a small beard. However, he can change his appearance at will. This is just his default one that he uses most often. Hiring Vanir had already paid off more than any of them had anticipated. Why, thank you, boss. Now for the second general. She is more mysterious. I know not her name, only her appearance. She has bright red hair, yellow eyes, and an ovular mark on her forehead. She also had elvish ears, although I doubt she was one. However, her most striking features are the horns that protrude upwards from her head. That was even greater. It shouldn't be too hard to identify her with that distinctive look. He pointed to Wiz, who sputtered in outrage, and said, she also had breasts that could rival the idiotic shopkeeper over there. I know, that's why I said it. Ha ha ha. I didn't need to know that. I know that, devil. Izuku left before Vanir had a chance to read his mind, saying, thank you for the information, Vanir-san. Wiz-chan. If anything comes up, I'll make sure to contact you too. Oh, and Wiz-chan, please tell Vanir-san about Kazuma-kun's business ideas. I'm sure he will love them. Pulling one over on the guy felt good. Izuku muttered, exhausted from several days of non-stop work and stress, sigh. I should ask Aqua if she knows any good vacation spots. She seemed like the kind of person that would look into those sorts of things. Perhaps I could also extend an invitation to Luna-chan? The break would be helpful to her. Mansion of the Green Team. Izuku has been saying that a lot lately, hasn't he? Okay, so let me get this straight. How has his life turned out? Izuku asked Aqua to elaborate, and Aqua nodded. You own a city. Well, my cute worshippers own a city. And I own them, so yes, I own a city, in a way. To be honest, Izuku went with this even though it didn't even rank in his top 10 weird statements. And this city is a major tourist spot because of its hot springs? Aqua asked, nodding once more while maintaining her cheerful disposition. Although she can be annoying at times, Izuku was truly happy to meet the silly ball of energy. Thank you, Aqua-chan. I guess we have a vacation spot now. Her smile widened considerably, as if she accepted the suggestion wholeheartedly. Good, Kazuma and Iris were already packing so Izuku could go pick up Luna and Wiz later. They too deserved a break. Yup. I'll go find Darkness-chan, Megaman-chan, and Yun-Yun-chan. It was his turn to get ready first, though. Towels, emergency cash, a few magic scrolls he gathered from different magic stores, freshly made bathrobes for everyone, and lastly some emergency food in case the journey took longer than anticipated. Izuku went back to the Guildhall after packing to inform Luna of the good news. Guildhall, it's reasonable to ask, but Izuku-kun, who will fill in for me? But Izuku had already planned for that by calling over another waitress and displaying a bag full of gold to her. The poor, but short-lived, waitress's eyes widened until they almost popped out of their sockets. As the younger waitress began to foam at the mouth before frantically accepting, Izuku said casually, this bag is filled with about 5 million Iris worth of gold coins. It's yours if you fill in for Luna-chan here for the next week along with 5 million more when we return. Luna's eyes begin to well up with tears, and she kisses Izuku before rushing off to pack for the trip. Problem solved, and before you even say anything, I'm doing this because you deserve it. So there's no need to pay us back, you already help us on a daily basis, this is us paying you back. After only a minute or so, Izuku rebooted, wearing a silly smile the entire time. Next up was Wiz's shop. Izuku opened the door and saw something completely unexpected. Izuku waited for an explanation before sharply asking, Vanis-san. Why is Wiz-chan on the ground, unconscious and burned? Well, you see. Alright, just Wiz stuff. We should really prevent her from acting as an executive in her shop. Even though she is the owner, the actual labor was done by Kazuma, Aqua, and now Vanir. Vanir agreed, but for some reason he laughed to himself before the two departed. I'll let this slide then, though please limit your use of corporal punishment in the future. I'll be taking her off your hands now. We've made plans to visit Alcanrisha for vacation, she's welcome to join us, and from what I'm seeing, she could use it. Izuku thought, weird, I should be worried about that, but it's vacation time, so I couldn't care less, and set his concerns aside. Wiz-chan appears to be in a lot of pain. Perhaps Kazuma-kun can assist her later. It was time for Izuku to upgrade his adventurer's card, which he hadn't done since acquiring the magic canceller spell. I really need to learn more spells. When he got there, Kazuma, Aqua, and Aris were already on the front steps of the mansion, packed and prepared to depart. The carriage Izuku had rented was big enough to accommodate up to 9 people plus cargo, so they had already packed up their belongings. He paid a hefty price for it, but it was worth it because Izuku was on vacation and didn't have to worry about horses. When the group saw him, they asked him why he was holding Wiz in a piggyback hold. Izuku raised his arm to supply the necessary energy, and with the sheer amount he had with OFA, it only took a few seconds for Wiz to restore color to her skin. She pulled a Wiz and got Veneer-san angry. Kazuma-kun, can you please use your drain touch to heal her? He asked. Their eyes lit up with excitement as they said, thank you for that. Now, all we have to do is wait for the others and we'll be off. If you all don't mind, I'm going to finally update my skills. Kazuma appeared to be the most excited, and he had a point. Being an adventurer class, he naturally had higher costs on his skills, which meant that he had to spend the majority of his points each time he leveled for something even remotely useful. You're really gonna update it? Finally, it was such a waste to see all of those stat points just sitting there, though. I guess with that quirk of yours you never really needed much magic, huh? Hey, why don't you change classes? Being an archmage is fine and all, but as an archpriest, you could be your own healer. And you can finally join the Axis cult too. Aqua attempted to persuade him. Izuku's shoulder was nudged further, and she added, plus, as my close friend, you'll receive special treatment. You might even be able to use the powers of Aris-chan and me at once. Isn't that better than some fancy mortal magic? Or you can pick up a weapon to learn. Fighting with your fists is fine and all, and it certainly served you well so far. But having a backup plan would be useful. Aris had a valid point. She nudged his shoulder as well, and Izuku saw her smile widen. And what better weapon to learn first than a knife? The progenitor of all melee weapons? Or maybe a bow? To even out your melee and ranged options. When Kazuma realized he was becoming obsolete, he screamed, "Oi, no fair. I'm already the party's jack of all trades. If Izuku-ni starts doing it too, then what would happen to me?" Aqua responded, comedic relief, and the two got into another argument. Just give me a kiss now. Although it took them to actually join Izuku in bed before he noticed, even I didn't take that long to realize that the other girls loved me. However, they all made valid points. We really didn't need another archmage because Megaman, Yun, and Wiz were already handling magic occasionally. It also made sense to learn how to wield a weapon, and All Might used his own fists to establish himself as the symbol of peace. But I can't just copy him all the time. I'm not All Might. Wait, this isn't possible. This course is essentially designed for me. Before swiping over the class name before his newly created adventurer's card changes, Izuku thought, might as well. A knight in chainmail brandishing a longsword with a crossguard replaces the wizard icon. The paladin class. Their attacks are fueled by faith. But unlike a priest or cleric, the paladin derives their authority from an ideal. Izuku's ideal was fairly clear. It could be anything. Justice, friendship, family, peace, pacifism, etc. After all, it was what he had always imagined himself to be. And it would become one of his sources of power as long as he maintained that ideal. Midoriya Izuku Heroic Paladin is the class. Points of statistics. 65 capabilities. Magic Canceller. Skills available. Strength Blessing, 1 point. The Advantage of Speed. Unrestricted Constitutional Blessing, 1 point. Good Fortune. 1 point. Magic Cleanse, 5 points. Elimination of Corruption. 3 points. 3 points for the Creed of Protection. Mastery with 2 hands. 6 points. 6 points for one-handed mastery. Mastery of Ranged Weapons. 5 points. Toxin Cleansing, 2 points. Heroism Aspect. 30 points. Identify the Lie, 1 point. Fearsome Aura. 1 point. After reviewing each skill, Izuku muttered, okay, I didn't expect that many skills, wow. He then divided his skill points appropriately. By the end, his newly acquired abilities resembled this. A Heroic Aspect Strength is a blessing. The Gift of Speed Constitutional Blessing. Good Fortune Magic Cleanse Eliminate Toxins. Find the Lie Fearsome Aura Dual-Handed Proficiency. Mastery of Ranged Weapons The Creed of Protection. 9 skill points. The old married couple at the party finally stopped fighting when Izuku muttered to himself, Best to leave those there for later, you never know when you need something on the fly. Together with Aris, who was attempting to soothe them, they approached Izuku and took a look at his new class. Aris's initial reaction was, "Heroic Paladin? You never changed, do you, Izuku-kun?" Yes, Izuku blushed at that. He didn't. When Kazuma saw his brother's class, he started laughing. At least Darkness took it seriously. Heroic Paladin. And I thought Megaman was the chuny of the group, snicker. That one Izuku anticipated. She blushed and stared at the ground in what Izuku can only assume was shame. You chose a mixture between a crusader and a cleric. Very impressive, however, she said. The tone of her voice did not match her words. You chose to master two-handed combat. Even though I am already our group's swordswoman. How shameful of me to need a replacement. Izuku made the decision to simply give her time. With a sing-song voice, Luna declared, "Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for bringing me along. You have no idea how long it's been since I had a vacation. Actually, neither do I." It seemed as though she wasn't entirely sure if this was a dream or not. At that point, Megaman and Yun Yun avoided her completely until they saw my adventurer's card and approached. A paladin class. How rare. Usually the only people who can use one of these are high-level adventurers with high stats in every category. And even then they have to believe in an ideal or cause worth living and dying over for it to work. Heroism? That definitely sounds like you, Izuku-kun. Yun responds, which sets up Megaman's. Izuku Midoriya-sama. The hero of Belzerg, so powerful and pure of heart that even the gods follow him. Nobles envy him. Women clamor over themselves to be with him. And at his side are the two most powerful crimson demons, ready to lay waste to his enemies. Megaman exclaimed as she spun Izuku's tale alleged myth. They picked a fight right away. Oh, and Kazuma-kun can be the jester along with little Chomosuke here, I guess. Sigh. I genuinely adore them. Izuku moaned to himself, but they're about as peaceful as a bunch of hungry wet cats. Izuku asked, Megaman-chan, is that cat yours? She blushed a little and gave a shy nod. At moments like these, she appeared far too cute for her own good. Izuku was unable to resist that face because, aside from the fact that he had no problem keeping a pet, it appeared to be amiable enough. It's not too much trouble, is it? To keep her. With the exception of Aqua, who seemed to be disliked by most animals. Well, I'd better go now. They freeze when Izuku says, if you're all done packing then we should probably leave soon. Even at my fastest, I doubt that we'll make it there by nightfall. They turn their gaze from their leader to the carriage and back again. Oh, they saw that there weren't any horses. In utter shock, Kazuma exclaimed, What do you mean at your fastest? Don't tell me you plan on pushing the carriage yourself. The others weren't much better. Luna in particular appeared to be on the verge of passing out. Izuku remarks casually, recalling his training at Dagoba Beach, yeah, it will be good training for me. I haven't really done weight and endurance training like that for a few months now, so it would be nice to get back to it. He had mental images of himself throwing up into a refrigerator that he would later have to carry. Fun times. No prizes for figuring out who the crazy woman who said this is. To see someone like you, a fellow noble, no, a hero of the highest caliber, reduced to a mode of transportation, I can't allow that. Please use me instead. Treat me as nothing more than a lowly beast, forced to pull you all along to your destination. No, if the moan she made was any indication, my denial was too hasty. She might have the endurance to pull the carriage, but even that would take days. You aren't strong enough, or fast enough to pull the carriage and reach Alcanrisha in a reasonable time. Luna in particular was unable to afford it. Don't worry about it, I used to do stuff like this all the time, even without my quirk. In fact, it's similar to how I earned the power in the first place. And abandoning that training just feels wrong. I let it slide until now since so much has happened, but I can't afford to keep doing that any longer. At this point, Aqua starts to cry. Was there any question? Such determination, such a thrive to improve. You really are a hero, Izuku claimed to be, and even though he never received his diploma, his numerous city rescues and his victories over numerous villains had to be taken into consideration. Even though she was powerless to assist him, Yun argued feebly, even so I feel bad about making you do all the hard work on our vacation. It just doesn't feel right. Izuku merely arched one eyebrow. You're not forcing me to do anything, I'm doing this willingly. If I wanted to, I could just rent some horses to pull it, but I genuinely want to get back to my training. I'll just say that my vacation officially starts when we reach the city. It shouldn't be that difficult at all. The total weight of the carriage, including passengers and cargo, is only around 1 metric ton. Izuku probably wouldn't be able to push it very far if he tried pulling it when he first arrived. Or for a very long time, however, now. At around 20%, Izuku turned on One for All. Using one hand, he took the carriage from the bottom and raised it above his head in a single motion. See what I mean? I don't even have to use my full set to do this, and I'm not even using my current limit either. I could pull this thing for almost a full day without getting too tired. Izuku. Perhaps a little too much. The group's mages were massaging their eyes to check for hallucinations. Finally fed up with the ridiculousness of the situation, Luna passed out. Kazuma was shedding proud, manly tears. He could never accomplish a feat of strength like Izuku just did, which is why his pride was shattered. Aqua was shedding proud, girlish tears. Real pride for her, Axis Acolyte, this time. Somewhere along the line, she made the decision that Izuku would be an honorary member of the Axis cult and that she would look good by proxy if he was going to be a badass. Izuku was receiving envious glances from Darkness about his accomplishments, and she was blushing for reasons Izuku would not consider. It was just another, Izuku does something crazy and shrugs it off, moment, and Aris simply shook her head. The tally mark appears to be at 240. All of the arguments that questioned Izuku's ability were successfully silenced, and they all left for Alcanrisha. Izuku maintained an even 20% speed temper. He was still going faster than any horse, easily double their speed, but any faster and his party's spines would turn to mush after the lengthy trip on an unpaved road. Thus, the group ought to reach Alcanrisha by the following day. As night fell, Izuku made the decision to rest. The gathering prepared a delicious meal by the fire and brought out the food. Or until an undead mob attacked, it was at least a pleasant meal. Even though Aqua could manage them alone and they weren't a problem, it still detracted from the atmosphere. After that, they made an effort to sleep, but a swarm of hungry birds burst into our camp. It seems that the local rock-hard crusader drew them in. As Kazuma laughed, Aris clarified, they're creatures that attack the hardest thing they can find, so I guess they're attracted to Darkness-chan's armor. This is Kazuma's second verbal suicide. Either that or they're attracted to her rock-hard body. They weren't very strong, but they were determined, and Izuku swiftly eliminated the attacking birds while Darkness was busy kicking Kazuma's face in Izuku. I'm not saving you from that one, Kazuma ni. You're on your own. Aris Pav of Team Green minus Izuku. Man, I feel bad for Izuku ni. This is supposed to be a vacation, but he's the only one doing all of the work. Kazuma said. Aqua objected to this. To be fair, she did, though Kazuma was most likely referring to physical labor when she said, EHH. What do you mean by, all the work? I was the one that took out those zombies. Aqua-senpai, as always, modest. He did say that his vacation didn't officially start until we reached the city. I've seen his old training routine back when he was still alive in his old world, don't worry, he'll be fine. That was only half the truth. I was confident he could pull it off. Definitely. However, it wasn't fair to him at all. Right now, though, I could only avoid getting in his way. Consequently, I smiled as I went to bed. I'll leave the grunt work to my super-powered boyfriend because there's no point in being worn out tomorrow. Alcanrisha the following day. Green might Pav. Do you have any idea how someone would respond if a human-drawn carriage carrying the exact replica of your goddess and her junior was traveling faster than any horse? Actually, surprisingly tame. It was best described by one man in particular. Aqua-sama. That must be you, right? Who else would have such a beautiful shade of blue hair? Or such perfect blue eyes? And that divine feeling Hagoromo? Also, that silver-haired woman, it must be Aris-sama, right? I guess that's cool too. He concluded his statement with less enthusiasm. As perspiration poured out of his body, Izuku thought, I guess these guys are a lot more in tune with the divine, and it makes sense that people kept calling them zealots. To be fair, he delivered on the big game he talked about. However, he was now completely worn out and in dire need of those hot springs. When the group arrived at the closest inn, the proprietor immediately recognized Aqua and gave them his best rooms at no cost, much to their delight. They accepted his kind offer without question and proceeded inside to unpack their equipment. With the exception of Izuku, who was excluded to allow him time to relax. After accepting this, Izuku quickly gathered his bathing supplies and declared his intention to locate the closest hot springs. The others quickly realized that Izuku needed a break as soon as possible, so they let him go alone with the understanding that they would meet him there once they had completed unpacking. Fortunately for Izuku, he discovered one close by. It was also rather large and nearly twice as large as the others he had seen. Why, I wonder? Before paying his fee and entering, Izuku pondered. It was divine to sink into the warm water, and Izuku sighed deeply as he went deeper and deeper. His bathing partner seemed to agree with him when he said, "I needed this." As Izuku's eyes opened like a squid we all vaguely recognized, he said, "Yeah, I could tell that you were full of stress the moment I saw you come in." A stunning woman with red hair sat through the fog directly in front of him. A red-haired woman who looked very familiar, with ears like elves. And she had a certain energy about her that Izuku recognized. A aura of divinity. Whoa. Play the piano theme for Ost, Golden Wind. Oh fuck my life. To make things worse, she was seated next to a man with brown hair and a small beard. And being aware of my luck, Hans is that person. At least he was unable to kill Izuku directly. The one general that I can't do anything about. That should be handled by cleanse toxins, but what about the others? I can't let them near my gathering. I could manage Walbach, but the unbreakable slime. Too dangerous. They would become suspicious if he didn't answer. Izuku made a small bow while maintaining eye contact with them. Oh, hello there. Sorry, I didn't notice you at first. He was half paranoid, and the other half because. Boing. Walbach asked him, "No problem, you looked really tired. Long journey," as if she didn't care that her towel didn't cover her upper body. Walbach's expression changed to one of surprise when he said, "You could say that. I didn't get much sleep last night after those Hawkites attacked." Hans said, somewhat suspiciously, "You were attacked by Hawkites? It's a small miracle that you survived unscathed. You said you fought them off? You must be really strong. Even as a full party, no one could defeat a herd of Hawkites." Izuku was unaware that those things were thought to be so difficult. Perhaps he simply encountered a smaller herd. Yeah, they weren't that tough. There were only about 200 of them, so I managed to take them all down quickly enough. It just made me paranoid while I slept, so I didn't rest very well before taking us here. Izuku was somewhat startled by my error. That could be detrimental. After hearing my story, Walbach gave me the thumbs up, saying, "Wow, you took on a whole herd on your own." While defending others, only high-level adventurers can pull that off. Good job. That's good that they didn't question it. Hans narrowed his eyes thoughtfully and said, "What did you mean that you brought others here? Did you fund the trip or something? I thought you were just hired muscle or something." Excessively perspires. He excused himself and left Izuku and the rebellious goddess alone, saying, whatever. Yo, I'm getting out early. Got work to do and all that. Enjoy the hot springs, I guess." Later. As they looked into each other's eyes, an awkward silence fell between them. That was a great way to start a conversation. "So, what did you mean when you said you brought others here?" A change of strategy might be necessary now that they were by themselves. She appeared to be the mage type. Perhaps this will scare her into leaving the city. "Ah, you see, that was a bit of extra training on my end, to keep me sharp before my vacation. I pulled the carriage myself, that's what I meant." Demon generals were notoriously unfaithful to one another. To say she was shocked would be an understatement. And no way. Where did you come from then? And how many people? Who could pull one of those things and expect to arrive in any reasonable amount of time? She exclaimed. However, it's possible that she was taken aback for the wrong reasons. "And you look so skinny. No offense, it's just that I would never expect someone of your build to be strong enough to do something like that. May I know what level you are?" She had. I'm thrilled. Instead of what he desired, Izuku had the opposite effect. In for an Aris, then. Izuku made his power play. I'm level 69, and activated his intimidating aura. I'm in for a million. Play the piano version of Ost Golden Wind. I promise this is the last time, and switch the point of view to Walbach. Walbach thought to herself, "Oh, my various gods, he's not lying," as she finished processing the words of her new acquaintance. He is without a doubt the most accomplished adventurer I have ever seen. His level alone would be insane, even among the other generals. What on earth is he? Royalty. Whoa, he's awaiting a reply. I needed to relax because the pressure was getting to me. I had to know because this man was too dangerous to ignore. Wow, that's certainly impressive. I've never even heard of someone with a number that high. If I may, what's your name? Fortunately, he has so far appeared friendly, so perhaps he can be talked into it. Where I'm from, it's common courtesy to give your name first when asking for others, even if you already know them. That's Was reasonable. It made sense because he did have a somewhat Japanese appearance. But by that last part, what did he mean? Have they discovered me yet? I bowed slightly in respect and said, "My name is Walbach, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you." He gave me a smile and did the same. I had to play this correctly. The reincarnate said, "I am Izuku Midoriya, likewise. Though I didn't plan to meet another goddess anytime soon." Walbach apologized for her ignorance and praised you, saying, "I can't say I've ever heard of you, sorry. But that makes it even more impressive, that an adventurer of your level can exist without others knowing about you." I tried to hide it, but my eyes were bulging. "No worry, my level and fame are both rather recent. I might have killed Beldia a while ago, but taking down the destroyer and defeating Vanir was rather recent. That last one only happened a little over a day ago after all." He said that with such ease, as if he were discussing the weather. Who was he? He probably noticed that I was perspiring now, even in the bathtub. "There's no need to be so afraid, Walbach-san. I am here on vacation after all. I don't intend to fight any demon generals today, so long as they don't cause any trouble." The hero admitted this to my relief. Oh, thank God. However, that implies Hans will need to halt his actions. Even if I told him about Izu, I doubt he'll listen to me. His next statement interrupted my flow of thought. "To make this clearer, I won't fight you so long as you do nothing wrong. Truthfully, I've had nothing against most of the demon generals that I've met so far, only opposing them because they confronted me directly. Hey Walbach-san, would you like to learn a secret? Something only my party and I know about." He said, "He has no animosity toward us. And a secret, why would he say that to me? I have to warn you though, you can't tell anyone else about it, or I'll be forced to kill you. Understood?" I gave a passionate nod. "Even if you were to murder me after this, at least I would have something to send to Mao-sama when I passed away because information was more valuable than gold." Pav of Izuku. Damn it, he should be on vacation. Hopefully, this will work. It would undoubtedly be my first time, but it wouldn't be the first time a hero subdued a villain. If only I could thank Hounddog Sensei for those extra lessons in psychological warfare. I inhaled deeply before launching into what might be the biggest bluff in history. It took a moment for the statement to sink in. Of the 3 demon generals that I've fought so far, 2 of them have joined me willingly and are currently under my employment. However, when it did, before she could finish casting, I hurried in with a full cowling at 30% and covered her mouth. We were in a somewhat awkward position now because she was so taken aback by the speed that she clamped down on my hand. Her bite wasn't nearly strong enough to pierce my skin, though. Red eyes met purple, and then there was silence. "Hey, Izuku-kun. We're here. Here's hoping my luck got you into the mixed bath as I hoped. Ah, there you are. Play Golden Wind piano from the Ost. I'm not sorry. Wow, Izuku-kun, you work fast. You already have 2 demons, a noble, and a goddess. Aren't we enough for you already?" Aris replied with a wry grin. This time, there was no need to conceal who she was. After all, her fellow goddess was present. "And I didn't know you were into such rough play, though I doubt Walbach-chan could hurt you even if she tried." For some reason, the Crimson Goddess was unable to take her mouth off of my hand even though she was screaming and trying to flee. Her teeth seemed to be stuck. Attempting to assist in the release of a trapped goddess 5 minutes later. Walbach rubbed her jaw and grumbled, "Okay, I swear I won't flee. Just please don't do that again." It was so embarrassing. To get her teeth out of my hand, we had to slightly extend it. As I continued to cast my magic canceller spell, I said, "You wouldn't be able to even if you tried." It lasted only a few seconds against a Goliath the size of a city with a magic barrier. I could, however, hold it like this for hours against a person of flesh and blood. The drawback, even if they were a goddess? She gestured to my hand behind her neck and said, "And could you please choose somewhere else to grab? This is a bit too intimate. For it to function at its best, I had to stay in close physical contact. If I grabbed your arm or hand it would be even worse. Plus we're in the bath right now." There weren't many other options. Unfortunately, Aris, however, appeared to be taking in the scenery. Does she find it amusing to see me with other women? 4 more people joined the bath, so I couldn't finish my reflection. Without Kazuma and Aqua, the rest of my group had shown up. What are those 2 up to, I wonder? Did Megaman know Walbach? Explosion Sensei. What are you doing here? Well, there were a lot of surprises today. Walbach appeared just as surprised. Megaman-san, well, this is a surprise. I never thought I'd see you again. And you're in a party with Izuku-sama. Honestly, I'm a bit impressed. Megumin seemed ecstatic to hear her praise. My little demon mage obviously had a great deal of respect for the fallen goddess, whatever their relationship was. Walbach began to get cold sweats once more. Thank you, Explosion Sensei. With Izuku-kun's help and your explosion magic, I even got myself to level 60. Isn't that amazing? He exclaimed. I suppose Megumin unknowingly assisted me. That works, at least. Izuku-kun, why are you holding Explosion Sensei like that? And why did she call you Izuku-sama? Don't tell me Kazuma Baka has been corrupting you. She yelled as she pointed at me. Oh no, I guess I'm on my own for this one. Aris is taking too much pleasure in this and wasn't going to assist. Wiz was still stunned to see Walbach here, and Yun was muttering to herself, blushing, a girl after my own heart, was adopting Megumin's pose and acting Yun. How am I going to survive this one now? Funnily enough, a few head pats and assurances were all that was required to correct Megumin's alleged corruption. Additionally, Izuku was able to turn the tables on her by deliberately bringing her into the mixed bathing area with him. As Aris put it, Izuku pulled a goddamn carriage filled with 8 people plus cargo for over a day. Normally, this would also apply to Izuku. He should be given some leeway. Izuku and the girls now had to contend with their new goddess friend. Izuku asked in the most composed voice he could manage, so Walbach-san. Would you please explain to us what you and Hans were doing here? Izuku realized he was in the bath with 6 very attractive women after the chaos of their meeting began to subside. 5 of them had expressed affection for him. How far have I come that this has become just another day? I'm pretty sure this situation would have killed me back at UA. But a strange one. To be honest, I just wanted to enjoy the hot springs. Hans is the only one aiming to harm the people here. He plans to poison the water source for these springs as revenge for the constant bad rumors caused by the Axis cult. The Demon King is particularly angry at the followers of Aqua for slandering his name constantly. The 2 goddesses were very clear in opposition to the Demon King. And if Aqua's devotees before Izuku and Kazuma were anything like the goddess herself, domesticated her, then it made sense that the Demon King would be angry. Izuku called out to the nearby hot spring, Aqua-chan, where is the water source? We should make plans and take him out before he can manage to do anything. To be more precise, the other party members coerced Aqua into going to the female section because they wanted to show consideration for Wiz. Additionally, it would be best to get permission from the local Adventurers Guild. There was no need to enter the situation unprepared and risk legal issues as a result. It's behind the Axis Cathedral. I should be able to get us in there fairly easily. The only problem is that slime itself. Even with my purification, I don't think I can take it down in one go. It's fine, you won't have to. I would never put you guys in such a dangerous position anyway. Megumin wouldn't work either, since an explosion would send pieces of him scattered across the area, contaminating everything. Izuku replies, attempting to think of a strategy. Cue the dejected explosion lowly face when you can't blow something up. If cleanse toxins were used frequently enough, I wonder if it would simply make him vanish. No, it's too dangerous. Izuku turned to face Wiz and inquired if she was familiar with any potent ice magic or other stasis-based magic. Before realizing, she appeared perplexed. Yes, it's my specialty actually, why do you ask? She said. Izuku asked the unofficial party member, I know you wanted to stay neutral, Wiz-chan, but if Hans succeeds with his plan, then all of Alcanrisha will suffer for it, including innocent citizens. Please consider helping us with this. After giving Izuku's words some thought, Wiz's expression darkened, and she nodded in agreement. That's true. The terms for my neutrality were that non-combatants would not be harmed. Hans is breaking that promise, so I have no reason to not help out. I accept. Walbach simply continued to get paler and paler throughout the entire ordeal. The way you can gather powerful allies like that, it's terrifying. It almost reminds me of Mao-sama. This was unexpected, indicating that she was acquainted with the Demon King. He should establish some ground rules first, but Izuku would inquire about that later. Since you weren't involved in the plan, I won't hurt you in any way. You're free to enjoy the hot springs as you wanted, just don't contact Hans while you're here. That includes contacting him through a third party. In fact, for the next few days consider yourself under house arrest. I won't allow you to leave the city until Hans is dealt with. Izuku issued an ultimatum. Izuku looked her in the eye and raised a fist, this time covered in 100% OFA. He did nothing with it so as not to break his arm, but she seemed to understand. That's all. I don't mind, but how exactly are you going to keep me from just teleporting away the moment you let me go? He asked. She nodded slowly, her eyes going blank as she said, because if I ever find you again, I won't give you the same chance twice. She was already afraid of Izuku when he broke out a 30% full cowling, so Walbach said in a monotone, yes, of course, how foolish of me. Thank you for such a generous offer, Izuku-sama. Please put the fist away. She would undoubtedly be terrified by the way he suddenly tripled his power. Or, for that matter, anybody else who might be able to sense the increase. Yun said, trembling a little, Izuku-kun is scary when he wants to be. Megumin simply had a conflicted expression. On the one hand, her boyfriend's recent actions were definitely cool. Conversely, he merely threatened to kill her former teacher. Wiz wasn't overly shocked because she was well aware of Izuku's abilities. Throughout the entire interaction, Arisa's smile remained mischievous. Darkness, too. Okay. Darkness appeared to be on the verge of experiencing an orgasm. Izuku thought, I think it's about time I got out of the bath. He couldn't be well from this. The issue with stopping rigorous training in exchange for facing formidable opponents was that Izuku's stamina had diminished. I'll be getting out now. You girls enjoy the hot springs. I need to take a nap to rest after pulling that carriage all day yesterday. Short energy bursts are more accustomed to the body than prolonged, drawn-out exercise. Izuku enters the customer lounge and settles down on one of the tiny beds there to nap. He slept for a good 30 minutes before a startling realization woke him up. Izuku leapt out of bed right away and began frantically getting dressed. Their leader's sudden energy startled the others who had finished their baths, and they questioned him about his panic. Izuku muttered, "We're screwed, done for, dead, game over, man." Which only made them more anxious. Especially Walbach, who stayed with them after deciding to trust her survival instincts. What could possibly frighten an adventurer who was almost level 70? The Green Paladin was too preoccupied with getting ready for a suicide mission to respond to the obviously inebriated Aqua's question, "Izuku-kun, what's wrong? Did you forget to hide all your dirty mags before leaving the mansion or something?" As his panic increased, he muttered, we forgot. Louder. Megumin searched but was unable to identify the issue. Forgot what? Extra mana potions. Your armor. Chomusuke. I have her right here. Yun was equally perplexed as she searched her mind for any possible forgotten information. The black cat was staring back at Walbach, who was just staring at it in wonder and not even blinking. Izuku would have bolted out the door and headed straight for Axel, but Darkness, who was growing increasingly anxious, stopped him with a slap on the back of the head. Although it didn't cause any real harm, it was able to calm him down. Izuku tried to calm himself and thanked her, saying, "Thank you, Darkness-chan, I needed that." Darkness asked, "What is it that we forgot that's gotten you so worked up, Izuku-kun?" Izuku's panic returned a little as he realized where it had come from. There was silence. We forgot Iris-chan, for several reasons. They disregarded Aqua, who had just passed out from alcohol poisoning. Arisa appeared a little alarmed but was able to brush it off, while Megumin, Wiz, and Yun appeared ready to pass out. When Darkness realized how serious their error was, she froze. Kazuma almost suffered a cardiac arrest. Actually, it doesn't matter. He was foaming at the mouth after having a heart attack. Walbach, too, continued to gaze at the cat. Fortunately, Izuku's rational side came into play before he could experience any more panic. They came to a halt and then grasped Izuku's shoulders as Wiz yelled, "Teleport! Wiz-chan! Yun-chan, save me! I need you two to teleport me to and from Axel, please, we don't have much time." After a few minutes, Alcanrisha in a newly sober Aqua concluded her exaggerated story about how royally screwed they were for forgetting Iris by saying, "And that's how we managed to add the crowned Princess Iris into our party. Literally." Walbach responded with a deadpan expression, "You have to be the strangest adventuring party I've ever witnessed. Two goddesses made mortal, one who came here willingly while the other was forced. Two reincarnates, one with no real natural talent other than luck while the other arrived with enough power to rival a demon general without his gifts." She was honestly still processing that one. Two Crimson Demon Archmages, one of which happens to be trained by me personally. The daughter of a duke turned crusader. And to top off this already broken mess of a team, you've enlisted the help of two demon generals and a member of royalty, within your first year of adventuring. Walbach required a drink, and the stronger the better. What led her to become involved in this mess? Damn it, all she wanted was a pleasant getaway at the hot springs. It was becoming awkward. and eventually even the cat began to slink away from the redhead. Well, now that we've answered your question, it's only fair that you do the same for us. Why have you been staring at Chomusuk for the last half hour? Oh, she's my other half. She chose to elaborate after observing the perplexed expressions on the faces of her new acquaintances. Megumin was reportedly having some flashbacks to Vietnam when she released the animal and allowed it to wander over to Walbach. When I was sealed away by the Axis cult long ago, they split me into two halves. I was originally the goddess of sloth and violence, but my current body embodies sloth alone. The cat that you see there was my other half, which embodied violence. The cat vanished as soon as contact was established, and Walbach, the goddess, was restored. In a way, the two sides of her personality were no longer equal, and her new dominant trait was sloth. Huh, I expected more. I guess blasting the poor thing with explosion magic took out most of its violent tendencies. I don't feel much different now, just a little more agitated at being captured by Izuku-sama so easily. A flash of light, accompanied by the three missing party members and an enraged Iris, startled her out of her reverie. As Izuku did his best to apologize in Japanese, the princess was pinching his cheeks. I'm sorry. Please stop doing that, Iris-sama. I left in a hurry and I forgot about you, I'm sorry. Izuku stopped flailing and gave an honest response, saying, I could understand forgetting. But if you had a spell like teleport, then why did you wait so long to come back for me? The royal loli, however, was not having any of that. Iris, being the understanding princess that she was, chose to listen to his explanation. I actually have a good explanation for that, please let me go and we can explain it properly. Thank you for being reasonable, Iris-sama. Cough. To begin, I guess I should rip off the bandage right away. Izuku glanced at Walbach. Iris' response was naturally one of incredulity. That is Walbach-san, the goddess that your father mentioned a few days ago. She is a demon general, and another one is in this city, planning to pollute the local hot springs water source. Iris, frustrated at being excluded from her new group's exciting adventures, added, so let me get this straight. You decide to go on vacation after defeating another demon general, which I learned about from a waitress of all people, I might add. She pointed to Walbach, who was just sitting there looking sheepishly, and said, during this vacation, you met not one, but two more demon generals. One of which you managed to intimidate into neutrality. Iris mumbled, face palmed, and sighed deeply. Izuku rubbed his head sheepishly and said, that adventurer's card is a complete lie. You have the worst luck that I've ever seen in my life. Iris said, you have a misunderstanding of what luck is. As she went into more detail about her domain, the other members of the party stared at her. Luck is the general ability to fight against fate or destiny, whether it turns out positive or negative determines whether it's good or bad luck. They are subjective terms. Izuku-kun here was born powerless, and quite weak in body as well. In other words, he was fated for mediocrity at best. That was certainly unexpected to those who didn't know his history. Regardless of what All Might said, One for All was a stroke of excellent luck. However, he trained his mind to be strong, and through a stroke of luck, he managed to beat out fate by obtaining a new source of power. Although it was a chance encounter in the first place, Izuku earned the power. Izuku could certainly believe that, even though it made taking a vacation nearly impossible, as he recently learned. That is the definition of luck. It can be good, or bad, or even neutral. But its effects are always extraordinary for those with a lot of it. A blessing and a curse, if you will. Essentially anyone with high luck is blessed and cursed to never have a dull life. Izuku nodded in agreement before continuing to explain the situation. Well, with such a handicap I can forgive your misgivings, Izuku-kun. Now about this other demon general, do you have a plan against them? Iris asked. Slimes are completely invulnerable to physical attacks. Fire may work, but it would cause too much collateral damage. Wind attacks will just spread the body around and make the situation worse. Earth will get dissolved slowly. As far as I can tell, our only option is Wiz-chan's ice. She nods as she already knows her part in the battle to come. After all, she was an experienced adventurer. We'll set up camp at the water source and hide. When Hans makes his move, Wiz-chan will do her best to completely encase him in ice. After he's been contained, Megumin-chan will cast explosion on the still solid body, preventing the slime from spreading out any further. And hopefully, with a more concentrated target, he will be completely disintegrated from it. If not, then we can fire it another 2 times to make sure of it. Izuku concluded his talk. Walbach exclaimed in utter surprise. You can cast explosion 3 times in a row. How? Even I can't do that. Mana was insufficient for consecutive full power explosion spells. Even for a goddess. How could a small teenage girl possess such reserves, regardless of her level of skill? As she took several mana potions out of her bag, Megumin appeared arrogant. Mana potions. One of these, made by our leader Izuku-kun, is sufficient to replenish my mana. She boasted about Izuku's invention on his behalf, saying, I can drink about 8 of these in a day, but even so, casting explosion so many times does a number on my body, so I'm limited to 3 explosions before I need a few hours of rest. Izuku-sama, is this your gift? After looking at the potions, Walbach praised them, saying, it's quite powerful then. Izuku shook his head negatively. In reality, I got 2 gifts. The first was merely a gadget that let me access information and stay up to date with what was happening in my world. Transmutation was my second gift. Izuku clarified after observing her perplexity. I can change the density and shape of any substance. Additionally, I have the ability to transform equal quantities of one material into pure energy or another. As Walbach came to this realization, he explained, I make these magic potions by putting my own mana into ordinary freshwater and turning it into a drink rich in magic. How much energy can be produced from any common material, Izuku-sama? I hope it's not too bad, she asked. As he did some mental math, Izuku became reflective and said, oh, the material converted doesn't change the energy created. A kilogram of dirt is worth just as much as a kilogram of manatite, as for the amount. As Walbach paused for a moment to consider whether she should switch sides for her own sake, he said casually, a kilogram of material would create enough energy to rival an explosion spell. Well, that's essentially the strategy. Many of these demon generals have been, at best, gimmicky. Beldia was killed by simple cunning and a little water magic, while Veneer was defeated with ease. Unbeknownst to him, the other people in the room were all thinking the same thing at once. They weren't easy to kill, you're just too damn smart and strong. Hans simply needs to be trapped and destroyed in that order, albeit by high-level magic. So, while I wait for an incredibly potent poison slime to arrive, I'm going to camp next to a humid hot spring source for the remainder of my vacation. Luck is something else, huh? Aqua's somewhat justified complaints were, you know Izuku-kun, your tactics are on point, but you need to work on your strategies. To Izuku's credit, most people didn't consider the practicalities of waiting for a house-sized poison slime disguised as a man for hours on end in a hot and muggy environment. Kazuma's stomach rumbled in agreement as she said, it's unbelievable that I'm saying this. Aqua-chan is correct, though. The very least we could have done was bring some snacks or a deck of cards. I'm going to die of boredom instead of poison. Alright, whatever. Using transmute to create a deck of cards shouldn't be too difficult, right? He didn't have to, though, because just as Izuku was going to go out and gather some vegetation to make playing cards, a crazed Hans showed up and said, I'm finally going to avenge our lord's reputation after all these years. And I'm going to enjoy this after the hell that those zealot bastards put me through. The party set up their trap before the man could even approach the water source. Now, Wiz-chan, just in case, Izuku yelled as he directed his magic canceller at Hans. Ice Prison, Cursed Highness. Normally, this spell would only send a relatively small pillar of ice, about the width and height of a man. Too risky, Izuku said, so Wiz went out of her way to overcharge the spell. She called out before hiding herself under a dome. A veritable tsunami of ice descended upon the distracted slime. Izuku had no mercy left to offer, so Hans was effectively beaten after being frozen without a chance to react. However, the prison wouldn't last forever, much less in a hot and humid place like this. No, Hans needed to be put to death here, especially since he intended to kill off hundreds of innocent people. The explosion of Sacred Highness. In contrast to her typical wanton blasts of destruction, the combo attack in which Megumin was charged by Aqua's holy energy through Kazuma's drain touch was thankfully concentrated and quite devastating. Izuku savored the explosion. Its holy radiance felt very pleasant and thought, good thing I decided to build that stone dome for Wiz-chan to hide inside of. The residual holy light from that spell might have been enough to kill her outright. Those extra mana potions won't be necessary, I suppose. Level advantage is serious business. The explosion had a relatively small blast radius, but what it left behind was a huge crater that was only a few meters wide but several hundred meters deep. I can't even see the bottom. Note to self, never piss off Megumin. Kazuma captured everyone's thoughts on the matter quite well. He cancelled several of his pranks for the Crimson Loli. Iris emerged from hiding and inspected the damage. Yes, okay. You guys killed him dead. You seem to take down his generals far too easily, so perhaps we should send you guys to battle the Demon King right away. Don't make fun of that. This was meant to be a vacation, damn it. You guys did him a lot of damage. You totally destroyed his body until nothing was left behind, Megaman-chan. You've graduated, by the way. Izuku sat there perplexed as Walbach was present during the explosion while Loli was celebrating her graduation from Powa. University, yes, I just did that. No, I'm not sorry. By now, I thought you would be on the opposite side of the world. What brings you out here? Are you too scared to leave your room? Why would she voluntarily approach them again when she was shivering and perspiring the last time they saw her? I've come to the conclusion that nothing on earth could truly stop you from killing me if that's what you truly wanted. So I chose to help you rather than anger you or lose what little dignity I still had. Okay. Why though? Wasn't she faithful to the Demon King? You must be perplexed, so allow me to clarify. I've only really been on this earth for the past 10 or so years. Pointing to Aqua, she said, before that, the idiot's fanatics had sealed me away. Hey, Aqua responded angrily, but it was ignored. And handed over to Megaman-chan's people as a tourist attraction, she said. That must have been a blow to the pride. I haven't really felt the violent impulses I used to have since Megaman-chan woke me up. Absorbing her hasn't restored my other half either, because they were so severely weakened. I've successfully eliminated that part of my divinity. So she wasn't violent as her title suggested. Well, that eased Izuku's decision. However, he first allowed her to complete her story. The Demon King's kindness and the fact that I was revered by his subjects were the only true reasons I joined his army. But now that I think about it, they primarily admired my violent side. Additionally, they have begun to turn away from me more and more since I haven't really demonstrated that. It seems legitimate, so I really don't have any reason to stay with them. However, Iris appeared somewhat conflicted about the matter. I'm not sure how I feel about letting a demon general get away with it. On the one hand, having you as an ally would be very beneficial. However, your offenses cannot simply be ignored. She was right. In any case, what has Walbach accomplished in her overall career? To be honest, I haven't accomplished much. I've only held up the Demon King's barrier and carried out a few hit-and-run missions on the different strongholds throughout Belzerg in the roughly 10 years that I've been active to keep the army alert. Castles are pretty durable, so I doubt I've actually killed anyone with those explosion spells. At most, I just damaged property and got some of the soldiers wet. Alright, this was just too convenient. Are most of the Demon King's army members simply inept or something? Now that I think about it, I haven't actually heard any news about the war. No battle reports, no casualties, not even any news on property damage caused by the supposedly invading army. I smell shenanigans. However, conspiracy theories were out of the question at this point. They still needed to return to the cathedral and reassure the locals that the issue had been resolved. Hopefully, they still had time to unwind before heading back to Axel. After half an hour, Team Green Hotel. At this point, all 10 of them were essentially having a sleepover since they had all fallen asleep after waiting so long for Hans to arrive and were so exhausted that we decided to simply rent a room for everyone to use. Izuku usually feels ashamed about sleeping with 8 pretty girls, but he's kind of desensitized to it now because of the mixed bathing incident, and Kazuma was there, so it shouldn't be too awkward. Early the following day Izuku had never experienced this before, and it almost gave him a heart attack, so he took a moment to prepare for what was about to happen. Izuku woke up feeling something soft on his back, face, and you get the idea. Izuku inhaled deeply and made an effort to sit up. Moan. He opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the cursed blessed sound, and he was instantly confronted by a cursed blessed image because darkness had dozed off on top of their newest partygoer. And to finish the picture, Wiz had attempted to console her former, now current ally last night and ended up joining the group of bodies, with the only difference being that she had neglected to tighten her robes from the previous night and had her entire cleavage on display for everyone to see, everyone being Izuku since he was the only one awake. The goddess also ended up hugging Iris in her sleep from last night's post-battle celebration. Not yet, Izuku-sama. I arrived just now. Izuku would typically claim that the gods were playing tricks on him, but since there are currently 3 of them in the room, it may be the other way around. Please wait until we arrive at your mansion. Izuku bemoaned his good, bad luck inwardly. Is this what Iris-chan meant by people with high luck never having a dull life? If so, I want my stats reduced. These situations are gonna get me killed one of these days. It was too early for this shit, and Izuku needed breakfast, so he ultimately made the decision to pull a Kazuma and just up as quickly as possible, disregarding the follow-up moan that Darkness gave him for his trouble. After getting dressed, Izuku simply walked over to the lovely bakery that was conveniently located next to their hotel. Nothing beats a warm bagel in the morning, with the possible exception of a jelly-filled donut. Izuku-kun. You can't wake a girl up and then just leave her like that, and Izuku's tranquility vanished. I apologize for waking you up, Darkness-chan. I woke up, panicked, and went to get breakfast because I was hungry. Izuku gave her a raisin bagel slathered with fresh strawberry jam and said, "Here, I'll place the bill as an apology." Iris took the bagel for herself and said, "All is forgiven." This caused the masochistic crusader to mutter again, but it was quickly dismissed. Well done, Izuku-kun. You have already eliminated over half of the demon generals in the 5 months since we arrived on this planet. The majority of them even work for you. Haha. It felt good to be acknowledged for his hard work, and her laugh was calm and sincere. Had Izuku attempted to do this in his previous world, he would have been reprimanded or worse, imprisoned for acting independently. Izuku didn't like the direction this was taking. Not to mention how far you've come in the other battlefield of life. I already had an interest in you when you stated that you wanted to return me to heaven. It was just the right thing to do, wasn't it? Iris gave Izuku new life, so why wouldn't he do everything in his power to help her? Not many would give up a nearly omnipotent wish on someone else. Then Darkness-chan appeared, and without even realizing it, you helped her better herself within 10 seconds of meeting her. Did you know that she had never hit her target before? Actually, Izuku was unaware of that. In fact, Darkness had either been excluded from their battles or had been reduced to tanking damage that never materialized. Yun-Yun-chan and Megaman-chan will follow. Despite the fact that many people thought Megaman-chan was a liability, you accepted her. Furthermore, not even a day after you first met her, you assisted her in realizing her dream. Yun-Yun-chan was also brought along because you saw that she was too shy to ask. They have been the best of friends ever since they met you. It's great, almost like sisters. When Iris put it that way, Izuku felt foolish because he had never considered it that way and had questioned why they were interested in him so quickly. After that, we ran into Kazuma-kun and Aqua-senpai. Since she's always been so immature and unruly, I honestly expected her to despise you at first. But once more, you completely exceeded my expectations. You paid off her debt and even showed her how to be humble. I couldn't believe it, and to be honest, I think I fell in love with you again. Okay, that was a little cruel to Aqua, but it wasn't entirely wrong. Soon after, we got to know Wiz-chan. To tell the truth, I was shocked that I didn't immediately try to kill her. Since undead are our natural enemies, most goddesses wouldn't even consider it. Nevertheless, despite the odds, you have somehow managed to bring our small family together. It's no wonder they behaved so strangely when they first met. Izuku believed Iris was just being jealous once more. I can say with absolute certainty that no other person I've ever met could pull off being friends with gods and demon alike and survive. And now you have a secretary type. Who was the secretary, Nani? A waitress, okay, Luna, that made sense. A little sister, princess type. Wait, Iris. The king was laughing about that, my god. And if I heard Walbok-chan whisper right, another goddess coming for you. The thought of what his mother would do to him if she found out made Izuku's face go pale. I'm the deepest level of screwed, aren't I? She would pass out right away, so he didn't have to think too hard to figure that one out. Oh, don't look at me like that. Heroes and nobles frequently have more than one lover. You are both, too. And in this world, a hero deserving of legend status. Izuku was surprised when Darkness and even the amiable baker joined in, nodding their heads in agreement, as if Izuku's obtaining a harem of girls was a law of the universe or something. It was bound to happen, Iris said casually, as if she could see it coming a mile away. Kazuma uses alcohol as a coping mechanism and appears to be holding it together. Sigh, first a harem, now underage drinking. I just want to go home now. Maybe the world will start making sense when I sleep in my own bed again. Darkness seems to have heard Izuku mutter to himself. The guys back home would freak out if they saw me now. How old are you, Izuku-kun, now that you've brought it up? That's right, he never mentioned his age, had he? She inquired curiously. Oh well, better late than never. I apologize, it simply never came up. Izuku turned around to see Kazuma coughing violently after hearing a choking noise behind them. I'll be 16 next July 15th. Why, I'm older than you. What the devil? In addition to being taller and stronger than I am, you also appear more mature. And I thought I had the mischievous younger brother role filled. He screamed, then shook his head. You're saying that all along, I was the foolish older brother. He ran off into the sunrise, letting out another cry of psychological agony. Well, that did occur. Izuku could really use that drink right now. Perhaps their hotel had some hidden in that surprisingly modern mini fridge in the living room. Oh crap. I ended up leaving those two alone in that bakery. Oh well, they should be fine. And I'm repressing this whole day for the rest of my life if you guys don't mind. Returning to the hotel, is it surprising that they have sake here? Izuku nodded and followed suit before responding to what was likely a rhetorical question. Walbach asked before taking a sip from her cup. It makes sense. You do realize that the gods have been sending people here for almost 100 years. The majority of them are Japanese, so I'm just shocked that more of their culture hasn't already permeated this area. However, based on Iris's comments, some of their gaming consoles have arrived. This isn't half bad, but I still like grape wine. I wish Kazuma-kun would give me a treat like this more frequently. However, I suppose I'm expecting too much from a hiki-neat virgin. Aqua grumbled before downing an entire bottle like a pro. When she's intoxicated, she becomes much more talkative and forthright about her emotions. Speaking of drunk, Izuku was actually not, even though he had been drinking for a few hours and was only experiencing a slight buzz. This was concerning, to be honest, until he recalled a minor inconvenience caused by cleanse toxin that wasn't specifically mentioned. Since he had so much of it and alcohol was only regarded as a poison, in high concentrations, it cured all toxins before they passively entered the body, including alcohol, leaving Izuku in a constant state of buzz with no real repercussion. His drinking companions all said, "Lucky bastard," but Izuku found this to be pleasant after a good week of constant stress. Hey Aqua-chan, if Kazuma-kun and I killed the Demon King together, do we both get a wish or just the one that lands the finishing blow? Somehow, the alcohol made him consider questions that had seemed pointless before. The rewards go to the person who takes part in the fight. Well, that was good to know. However, there was no rule against wishing for more wishes. I wonder if the gods will figure that out eventually. Reincarnates included, so you both get a wish, plus anyone else that joins the fight. In the meantime, in heaven. The child is right. Aw shit. Why didn't we amend the wishes to include some guidelines? When he came up with these schemes, the god of wisdom of all things cried out and threw away his alcohol in disgust. He really needed to quit drinking. Hee. My boy is that. I was confident that he would figure it out in less than a year. Yo Freya. You owe me 5,000 rupees. The local god of entertainment held his hand up towards the mother goddess of the Norse. How did you know? Not expecting to lose such a straightforward wager, she asked incredulously. Let this teach you something. He concluded in an irritated tone, recalling a recent loss that one of his other selves suffered to a high school freshman of all things. Never place a wager with Maya unless you have something dumb like an outer god on your city of fucking acid waifu and their chaos gods. Quote. I miss Iris-chan. Freya lamented the passing of her old drinking companion, and now, of all things, she found herself in a harem situation. How could that have happened in less than a year? 3 days have passed since Hans was murdered by Belzerg's Emerald Party and their newest member was added. Izuku liked to think they had made good use of that time, playing together, unwinding, and even sharing a drink. Yun and Megaman also had a chance, but they were both lightweights. After receiving a few doses of the more potent substances, they were rendered unconscious. In appreciation for saving their livelihood, the city even threw them a lavish banquet. It was a fairly straightforward event. If the Axis cult's adherents could do one thing above all else, it would be to party. Despite its simplicity, it was magnificent. With the exception of their iron-livered leader, of course, the majority of the party was inebriated by the end. Since the Hans incident, the girls have been able to sleep with Izuku every night, much to his embarrassment. He made an effort to avoid it, but they always managed to pin him down, and he lacked the courage to wake them once they had fallen asleep. Walbach even joined in. The first time she woke up to find that she was sleeping in the pile, she blushed profusely and fled to an unknown location. But she has calmed down a lot since that initial reaction. Izuku had a strong suspicion that Iris was involved. I'm going to die because of my goddess, he thought. Izuku would describe his trip as a huge success overall. I suppose this is what some people would refer to as a business vacation. Laughs. He essentially solved more problems during his vacation than the other elite adventurers did during their entire careers, which Izuku still thought was pretty funny. And here I am now, pushing a carriage loaded with 10 passengers and a significant amount of cargo. It wasn't an especially tough task. Izuku could have run the fucking thing down the countryside at speeds that would have made a fighter jet jealous if he had truly wanted to. However, where was the enjoyment in that? The drive back from Alcanrisha was enjoyable for both Walbach and Iris, who had never really traveled this way before. Iris hardly ever left the royal capital, and Walbach typically used teleport, so this was a welcome change of pace for both of them. "Hey, Izuku-kun?" Izuku turned to see Iris's anxious expression as she spoke in a questioning tone. "How did you find something like this normal? What training did you undergo? I mean, you're not exactly from a family of superpowered heroes, and you're only 2 years older than me. How do you do it, then?" At that, Izuku arched an eyebrow. Was it truly that strange? It's true that my family was fairly typical. In actuality, even though 80% of people on the planet had power, I was born with none at all. I put a lot of effort into my training because my mentor trusted me, and I didn't let him down. Izuku clarified after Iris gave him another probing glance. All Might was his name. He was my world's greatest hero, our symbol of peace, and he reduced his nation's crime rate to a third of its previous level on his own. We eventually met by chance, and he decided to train me to be his successor after I impressed him. In any case, that is the condensed version, Izuku remarked before experiencing flashbacks to his 10 months of hell. To put it mildly, it was exhausting. When I first began training with him, I was just 14 years old, and he assigned me a massive task to complete alone for 10 months. Only after I completed the work was I permitted to succeed him. Izuku might have had to enroll at UA a year later, if at all, if he hadn't completed it within 10 months. Back then, they came very close. How did the workout go? Did you have to use a punch or something to smash a massive boulder? Megaman followed up with another query. In denial, Izuku shook his head. No, nothing of that sort. Recall that at the time, I was just an ordinary person with no exceptional abilities or noteworthy athleticism. In everything but my name, I was a stick figure. Izuku's thoughts returned to the initial photo All Might had taken of him. I was given the responsibility of clearing a trash-filled beach. The debris was stacked so high that it obscured the sunrise as it extended from one side of the shore to the other. I initially believed it was impossible, but I was able to complete all of that in just 10 months. By the end of that time, Izuku must have removed at least a kiloton of trash. Why should a beach be cleaned? Wouldn't it have been easier and more efficient to simply engage in intense exercise for the entire 10 months? This time, Kazuma was up, and he wasn't entirely mistaken, but it went beyond training. My goal was to become a hero. Most people think of heroes as strong individuals who fight criminals and save lives in a stylish and elegant manner. Few people consider a man performing community service to be a hero. As the generations passed and the hero profession became increasingly commercialized, that perspective was lost. Early on, All Might wanted to teach me that lesson. And it definitely stuck, I must admit. Izuku smiled as he answered that. He fell asleep for the next few kilometers due to the nostalgic atmosphere created by the conversation. Before Izuku knew it, they had finally arrived at the city walls. When they approached, Izuku was shocked to see a few real guards on duty. When Izuku approached close enough for them to recognize him, they relaxed their initial apprehension of watching a man push a big carriage at high speeds will do that. Izuku-sama, welcome back. The two must be the city's new permanent guards, the Green Paladin said, slowing down. Veneer-san has been quite occupied. Hello, we just returned from our trip. What's been going on with Axel? After all, this place was his and his party's fault. They should stay up to date on any new developments. Izuku-sama, we have made tremendous progress. Your business has been booming since the week you announced your tax changes. You deserve our long-term job, Izuku-sama. They all said, thank you. At once, which unnerved Izuku a little. Well, thanks for the compliment, but Kazuma-kun came up with the idea of permanent city jobs rather than hiring adventurers on the spur of the moment. You ought to give him thanks. When in doubt, blame your obnoxious older brother for your issue and leave. Compared to Izuku, Kazuma appeared to take in the compliments much more readily. Perhaps he ought to do this more frequently. After that, the group drove to the mansion to unpack, and Izuku returned the carriage he had rented while the others went to the guild hall for lunch. Izuku observed that everyone had a lot more energy as he crossed the city. The adults used to go about their daily lives with a worn-out expression on their faces. However, they now walk around with a noticeable boost in energy. As though a tremendous burden had been removed. Veneer-san has managed the changes quite well, considering that he is a demon that thrives on people's negative emotions. Izuku headed for the guild hall after returning the carriage to its owners. Or he would have if he hadn't been stopped midway by Veneer. Izuku-kun, good luck. I hope the modifications I've made thus far were acceptable to you. Talk about the devil, huh? Hi, Veneer-san. Indeed, you've performed admirably thus far. By hiring you, I made the right choice. Izuku gave a compliment. Veneer bowed to Izuku, grinning. Of course, having someone as strong as me working for you isn't something that happens very often. Tell me about your vacation, Izuku-kun. Izuku explained what had happened while shedding a few tears. Veneer laughed so loudly that Izuku thought his body would soon give out. 2 in 1 day. Haha, that must be a new record. I can't say that you didn't manage it effectively, though. I see a pattern. Haria, one dead, the other pacified. With that one, what was he implying? Anyway, I'll give you some information you might find interesting as a thank you for brightening my day. A man with blue eyes and blonde hair was searching for you. He was also dressed in red, white, blue, and gold. Perhaps you know him. He's waiting for you at the guild hall right now. Blonde hair and blue eyes. What about that color palette? Was Mitsurugi going to take responsibility for his foolish behavior a few months ago at last? I suppose it's better late than never. Izuku turned to face Veneer again, but he had already vanished. For a man with his degree of flamboyance, he is far too cunning. Izuku encountered Senna, of all people, as he proceeded to walk in the direction of the guild hall. Hi, Izuku-kun, it's good to see you once more. Was your vacation enjoyable? Her most recent benefactor was asked by the secretary type. Izuku gave her a smile and gave a somewhat sheepish response. Yes, it was a bit bumpy at the beginning, but it was nice overall. Well, did something occur that caused you any inconvenience? Well, that's a very mild way of putting it. Izuku described his first 2 days out of town, and it would be an understatement to say that Senna went pale. And for the right reasons, no doubt. You abandoned Iris-sama. How have you managed to survive? She accepted that Izuku had recruited one of them and defeated 2 more generals. By now, it has become standard procedure. I suppose it loses its uniqueness when you do the impossible every week. Izuku had to depart for work shortly, so Senna wished her luck in the future. She apparently secured a stable position as assistant manager at Veneer. Oh, the irony. Now that I think about it, there are only 3 demon generals left after Walbach-chan was hired. It would be disastrous if we went in half-cocked, so perhaps we should pay the king another visit before proceeding. Aqua should be able to remove the barrier now. Izuku reached the guild hall before he realized it and saw Mitsurugi standing outside with his eyes closed and his arms folded. He approached the blue-clad knight and gave him a quick tap on the shoulder. Excuse me, Mitsurugi-san, were you looking for me? He shook his head, looking perplexed. No, I wasn't. Who told you that? A little irritated, he asked. Izuku shrugged and went on to explain. According to Veneer-san, a man with blue eyes and blonde hair who was dressed in red, white, blue, and gold wanted to see me. I don't know anyone who fits that description except you. His eyes widened in insight, and he gestured with his thumb back toward the guild hall. That's the guy you're looking for. He said he wanted to see you when he arrived a few days ago. He simply accepted the waitress's explanation that you were on vacation and stayed ever since. In my opinion, he was a little unsettling, especially given his black eyes. I believe he may be similar to us because of his peculiar name. The mention of black eyes caused Izuku's entire body to freeze. Is it possible that it couldn't be? Izuku began running toward the entrance and pushed the door open as quickly as he could before the idea had even fully formed in his mind. A well-known face was sitting in one of the tables with his party, waiting for him and appearing a little agitated. Until he stopped when he saw Izuku. How long they stared at one another was unknown to Izuku. Seconds could have passed. Whole minutes might have passed. However, the silence was broken first by the man in front of him. Like he did every time. He spoke up with a little smirk that he really only showed Izuku. Young Midoriya, it's nice to see you again. Since you passed away, it appears that you have made a lot of wonderful friends. The only person who could say that last line straight and without making it sound strange is All Might. or if his world hadn't gone dark at that precise moment, that's what Izuku would have believed. Having been in this new world for almost a year, Izuku had accepted the possibility that he might never see his old friends again. However, he saw his mentor there, in the physical world. Izuku passed out before he could say anything because it was too much.
So this was the end of the series. I hope you enjoyed it. To watch more series like this, subscribe to my channel. Till then, bye bye.